Everyone wants proof after the shift. But here's the truth. The moment you stop seeing signs is not the end of the game. The silence you fear is the universe whispering. Now it's your turn to play. When people first step into the quantum journey, there's usually a rush of excitement. The world feels alive. You start noticing repeating numbers on Clocksy, 1111, 222, 333. You bump into someone who says exactly what you needed to hear. A stranger mentions the very thing you were just thinking about, and inside you whisper, "Yes, this is proof." The universe is listening. I'm aligned. But then something changes. Slowly, almost without warning, the signs begin to fade. The numbers stop appearing as often. The coincidences seem to vanish. Dreams feel less vivid. And immediately, panic sets in. You wonder, did I lose my alignment? Did I fall out of the field? Did I do something wrong? This is the hidden trap. We've been trained from childhood to crave evidence before believing. In school, we're taught to show our work. At jobs, we're told to prove our results. Even in relationships, we look for constant signs of reassurance. So when synchronicities appear, they feel like confirmation stamps. But when they disappear, the mind assumes failure. Here's the paradox. Chasing proof actually pulls you out of the state you're trying to hold. When you constantly look for signs, you place your awareness on lack. You tell the field, "I don't believe unless you show me." That energy of doubt signals incoherence. Think about a child learning to ride a bike. In the beginning, the parent holds the seat steady, guiding balance. That's what synchronicities do. At first, they stabilize you, keep you motivated, remind you the field is real. But eventually, the hand must let go. If it never did, the child would never truly learn balance. The same is true with proof in the quantum journey. The disappearance of synchronicities isn't punishment, it's graduation. It's the universe saying, "You've been shown enough. Now it's time to embody without needing proof." Quantum physics supports this. The observer effect tells us that reality collapses into form when observed. Synchronicities are glimpses of that collapse. But if they were endless, you'd stay, addicted to the outer signs instead of inner alignment. So when proof disappears, it's not a sign that you're off track. Quite the opposite, it's an initiation. It's the moment the training wheels come off, the hand lets go, and you're invited to embody your frequency fully. The hidden trap is thinking proof equals progress. But the real progress begins when you no longer need proof to keep believing. Silence is one of the most misunderstood parts of the quantum journey. Most people mistake it for absence. They think if the signs are gone, then nothing is happening. But silence is not emptiness, it's the most active phase of reorganization. To understand this, let's look at physics. Before a particle collapses into a fixed state, it exists in superposition, a condition where it can occupy multiple possibilities at once. From the outside, it looks uncertain, almost like nothing is happening. But in reality, everything is happening. The system is reorganizing itself, preparing to crystallize into a new form. This is exactly what happens after your shift. The synchronicities that once acted like breadcrumbs begin to pause. Your life appears quiet. You question your connection. But beneath the surface, the field is rearranging. The old timeline hasn't fully dissolved. The new one hasn't fully stabilized. And you are standing right in the middle of that quantum in-between. Neuroscience echoes this truth. Your brain is a prediction machine, constantly building models of reality based on your past experiences. When you step into a new state of being, your subconscious doesn't yet recognize it as home. It needs time to rewire, to adjust its predictive model. During this integration, your nervous system quiets external confirmations. That pause is your brain recalibrating to the new frequency. Spiritually, mystics across traditions have always known this. The early desert fathers and mothers spoke of the dark night of the soul, a stage not of punishment but of initiation. Eastern mystics described withdrawal of the senses as preparation for deeper union. The silence was never seen as abandonment. Tit was preparation. Think of a symphony. Before the most powerful movement of the music, there is often a pause. The orchestra holds still. The air becomes heavy with anticipation. Listeners lean in, waiting for the explosion of sound. That pause is not emptiness, is the tension before breakthrough. The same happens in your journey. Silence is not the absence of alignment, is the signal that reorganization is underway. The field is pulling back, not to punish you, but to stabilize the frequency you've already created. So when the signs go quiet, don't panic. Don't assume you're disconnected. Recognize that you're in the science of silence, the most potent space of transformation. It's in this stillness that the universe is weaving your next reality. One of the strangest, most confusing parts of the quantum journey comes right after the silence. Instead of feeling calm, you often feel more emotional than ever. Doubt creeps in. Anxiety rises. One moment you're filled with excitement, and the next you're questioning everything. Many people think this means they've failed. But in reality, these emotional spikes are not a sign of collapse. They are proof that the shift is in motion. Here's why. Before any system stabilizes into a new state, it experiences turbulence. Think of a rocket launching into space. The shaking is most intense right before it breaks through the atmosphere. The turbulence isn't failure, it's momentum. Quantum physics mirrors this truth. A particle on the verge of collapsing into one reality flickers between possibilities. It hovers in superposition, existing in both the old and the new at once. This flickering looks chaotic, but it is simply the natural tension of transition. You are no different. When you are about to step into a new timeline, you oscillate between two worlds, the old one you're leaving and the new one you're entering. The emotional roller coaster you feel is the human version of quantum superposition. Neuroscience explains another layer. Your brain is wired for survival. It clings to what is familiar, even if the familiar is painful. When you start breaking free, the subconscious mind resists. It sends you waves of fear, self-doubt, and even sudden sadness, because you're wrong, but because your old identity is fighting for survival. The body is addicted to familiar emotional states. And like any addiction, withdrawal feels uncomfortable spiritually. Traditions have described this moment for centuries. Buddhists call it the burning ground, a stage where the ego resists dissolution right before awakening. Christian mystics named it the dark night of the soul, where the soul feels stretched between two realities. It is not punishment, but preparation. So when your emotions spike after the shift, don't misinterpret them as failure. They are not signs you've fallen out of alignment. They are signs that the old version of you is crumbling, and the new one is fighting to emerge. Think of it like childbirth. The contractions are painful, intense, and overwhelming, but they are proof that new life is about to be born. Your emotional spikes are contractions. They are proof that your new reality is pressing closer than ever. Every quantum journey has a moment of release, a moment when the universe takes its hands off the bicycle seat, when the training wheels come off and you are left to balance on your own. This is what I call the graduation moment. At first, synchronicities, repeating numbers, and meaningful coincidences are like gentle nudges, signals to reassure you that you're not imagining things. They're the universe's way of saying, yes, you're on the path, keep going. But those signs were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to guide you until you could stand fully in alignment, without leaning on them. Just like a parent who can't hold a child's hand forever, the universe eventually lets go. And when it does, many people panic. They mistake this graduation for abandonment. But in truth, it's the opposite. It's the universe's greatest compliment. Think of it this way. If you kept receiving proof every step of the way, you'd never develop true faith. You'd stay dependent on signs instead of learning to embody the frequency yourself. Graduation comes when the universe knows you've seen enough to understand. And now it's time to live it without constant reminders. Imagine a swimmer learning in shallow waters. At first, they cling to the instructor, terrified of sinking. But at some point, the instructor steps back. That instant of panic is where growth happens. Because when the swimmer realizes, I can float without support, everything changes. The silence after the signs is the same. It's the field stepping back, giving you space to prove to yourself that you can float in alignment without external confirmation. This is the trap most people fall into. They keep searching for proof instead of recognizing that the absence of proof is the proof. It shows you've reached the stage where signs are no longer necessary. It shows that you are trusted to embody, not chase. The graduation moment is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because you feel alone. Liberating because it's the moment you realize you were never actually alone. You were always carrying the alignment within you. So if your signs have gone quiet, if synchronicities have slowed down, recognize it for what it is, not disconnection, but graduation. It is the universe telling you you've learned enough. You are ready. Now go live it. Here's a counterintuitive truth. The closer you are to alignment, the quieter your external world becomes. Most people expect the exact opposite. They think, if I'm moving toward my dreams, shouldn't there be fireworks, signs everywhere, and confirmation from the outside world? But in reality, the field works differently. Think about physics for a moment. When systems reach coherence, when they're aligned, external fluctuations naturally reduce. A tuning fork doesn't vibrate erratically once it finds resonance. It hums with clarity. Two pendulums on the same wall, if left long enough, begin to swing in sync, not chaotically. Coherence means stability. Coherence means order. And in your life, coherence feels like quiet. This is why, when you're closest to your desired timeline, things often seem uneventful. The noise of doubt, fear, and external pushback starts to fade. At first, this can feel unsettling. You may even wonder if you've lost momentum. But silence isn't absence. Silence is confirmation. Silence is the sign that you've entered resonance. Let me give you a real-world analogy. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike. In the beginning, there's wobbling, overcorrection, and maybe even falling. That's noise, the instability of not yet being in coherence. But once you find your balance, what happens? The ride becomes smooth. The effort lessens. The noise disappears, not because nothing is happening, but because you're finally aligned with the motion. The same is true for your manifestations. When you first begin, there's turbulence. Old beliefs clash with new ones. Doubt wrestles with conviction. External circumstances test your faith. But as you persist, as you hold the vibration of the reality you desire, you stabilize. And with stability comes quiet. Here's the trap most people fall into. They mistake that quiet for nothingness. They interpret the absence of noise as a lack of progress. And in that misinterpretation, they break coherence. They wobble, they panic, they return to doubt. But the truth is this: the quieter it gets, the closer you are. Proof after the shift. Isn't chaos sits calm? You don't manifest your dream life so it can feel like noise and struggle. You manifest it so it feels natural, effortless, aligned. That moment when the outside world no longer feels like a battlefield. That's not the universe ignoring you, it's the universe harmonizing with you. The silence you hear is resonance stabilizing. The calm you feel is evidence of coherence. And if you can learn to interpret that stillness correctly, you'll stop chasing signs and start trusting alignment, because coherence doesn't scream, it whispers. And those who learn to trust the whisper are the ones who master the field. Human psychology is wired for survival, not for expansion. For thousands of years, our ancestors lived by one core principle: see first, then believe. They needed tangible evidence before they could commit. If they saw fire, they believed it was dangerous. If they saw food, they believed they could eat. This wiring was necessary for survival, but in the quantum field, it becomes a limitation. Because, here's the truth, in the realm of manifestation, that old rule is inverted. The quantum field does not operate on proof before belief before proof. It whispers, you will not see it until you hold it first in your mind, heart, and energy. This is the great reversal. The world teaches you to wait for validation, for green lights, for confirmation. But creation demands that you step first, with no evidence, no guarantees, and no applause. Belief becomes the fuel that generates the outcome. Think of it like planting a seed. When you put it in the soil, you don't demand to see a sprout immediately. You trust that, beneath the ground, unseen forces are at work. You water it, you protect it, you give it light without proof. That trust is what allows the unseen to eventually rise into the seen. The same is true for your dreams. The moment you send your intention into the quantum field, the seed is planted. But here's where most people fail. When no sprout appears instantly, when the soil looks quiet, they panic. They dig up the seed, questioning if it's really there. They abandon it before it has a chance to emerge. This is where trust becomes everything. Trust is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the only currency that grants you access to a higher timeline. Without it, you keep collapsing back into doubt, into the old frequency, into the same reality you're trying to leave. When the signs vanish, when the synchronicities stop. When the external world goes quiet, our nervous system will scream for reassurance. It will beg you to return to the familiar, to demand proof, to lower your vision to what is already known. But mastery is forged in this exact moment. To hold the state without reassurance is to prove to the quantum field that you are unshakable, that your alignment is not dependent on circumstance. The irony is that trust feels like the absence of evidence, but it is actually the highest evidence. It is the internal declaration that says, I don't need proof because I am the proof. I don't need signs because I am the sign. And the moment you embody this, reality bends. Doors open, opportunities arise, synchronicities flood back. Not because you chased them, but because you no longer needed them. Trust collapses time. Trust collapses doubt. Trust is the hinge on which timelines swing. Most people, when signs disappear, spiral back into doubt. It feels natural, almost automatic. You get a burst of synchronicities, numbers on clocks, conversations lining up, opportunities peeking through, and then silence. The mind panics. What if it's gone? What if I was wrong? What if nothing is really happening? That doubt doesn't just stay in your head. It shifts your frequency. It knocks you out of the alignment you've worked so hard to find. Suddenly, you're no longer broadcasting certainty, you're broadcasting fear. And the quantum field responds in kind. This is the loop that traps so many people. They live in a cycle of seeking validation. Signs appear, they feel good, silence follows, they doubt, alignment breaks, and then they beg for another sign to feel safe again. The irony. The very demand for proof pushes the proof further away. It's like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to check if it's growing. Every time you dig, you disrupt the process. Growth happens in stillness, beneath the soil, out of sight. The silence is not evidence of nothingness, it's evidence of hidden work being done. The field is arranging. The seed is expanding. Roots are forming. The unseen is preparing to become seen. But because human psychology craves control, most people cannot resist the urge to dig. They want to see movement now. They want evidence now. They can't tolerate the waiting room of creation, so they sabotage themselves by falling into doubt. And doubt, left unchecked, becomes the architect of delay. The ones who break free are those who refuse to let doubt become their master. They treat doubt the way you would treat an unhelpful guest who shows up at your door. You acknowledge its presence, but you don't invite it in to stay. Instead of spiraling, they persist. They persist in assumption without evidence. They hold the state even when everything in the external world screams the opposite. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need proof, that's when proof comes. Not as tiny breadcrumbs meant to reassure you, but as full-blown manifestations that leave no room for doubt. The dream job arrives. The relationship aligns. The opportunity materializes. The healing completes. The silence breaks, not with whispers, but with undeniable reality. Breaking the cycle of doubt means shifting from dependency to mastery. It means learning to live from faith, not evidence. It means understanding that the absence of signs is not a punishment, but an initiation test to see if you can hold the state without constant reassurance. When you stop checking the soil, the seed grows. When you stop demanding signs, manifestation accelerates. Doubt is digging, faith is watering, and persistence is sunlight. If you can resist the urge to dig, you'll watch your entire reality bloom. The ultimate turning point in this journey is when you stop chasing signs altogether. The need for proof fades away because you are no longer living from the perspective of doubt, but from the embodiment of certainty. You no longer wait for evidence that your vision is real. Carry yourself as though it already is. And in that state, the quantum field has no choice but to mirror back your conviction. This is the highest stage of the quantum game, the place where you no longer seek validation, but instead live as validation. It's the difference between asking, "Is this real?" and declaring, "This is who I am." At this level, signs aren't a lifeline for your belief anymore. They're simply byproducts, small echoes of a reality that is already solidified. In your being, when you embody the state fully, whether signs appear or not, your reality bends to meet you. The universe doesn't negotiate with hesitation, it responds to certainty. Think about how leaders, creators, and innovators move. They don't wait for the world to confirm their path before they act. They decide, they embody, and the world reorganizes around their decision. They become the evidence. Opportunities then begin to unfold effortlessly. The right people appear, conversations align, doors swing open, not because you've begged for synchronicity, but because you've tuned your vibrations so consistently that the external world has no choice but to harmonize with it. It stops feeling like you're searching for proof and starts feeling like life itself is proof of your alignment. This is the stage where trust transforms into knowing. No longer a fragile belief that wavers with every missing sign, but an unshakable identity. You are no longer checking for results. You are the result. You radiate the frequency of completion so powerfully that others see it in you before they see it in themselves. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing signs, the signs multiply. When you stop demanding proof, proof arrives not as random synchronicities scattered across your day, but as full-blown manifestations. The relationship, the career shift, the financial breakthrough, the health transformation. These things appear not because you hunted them, but because you aligned yourself so deeply with them that their arrival became inevitable. Living beyond proof is living as proof. You become the sign that others notice. Your energy, your actions, your results all radiate the certainty of someone who no longer doubts. You stop waiting for confirmation and instead serve as confirmation. And in doing so, you reveal the secret. The ones who transform reality aren't the ones who beg for evidence. They're the ones who decide to embody it first. That is mastery. That is freedom.